Welcome back. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and more people, including First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, are encouraging women to get screened. Delayed screenings because of the pandemic have led to more women getting diagnosed in later stages and to more deaths. Dr. Jessica Shepard is the Chief Medical Officer at Verywell Health. She joins us now. Dr. Shepard, thanks for being here.
Good night. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for joining us. So getting a mammogram, obviously this is a potentially life-saving appointment. What is your message to women who say they have just too much going on right now to get one, they're delaying it and putting it off?
You know, mammogram, again, is one of those things that we have figured out in screening that really is going to hallmark how we treat cancers, how we diagnose them. Specifically with breast cancer being one of the most frequent cancers that we diagnose in women, it actually represents up to 26 or if not more % of all female cancers. So the mammogram is specifically going to get us that early detection. What we're really looking for in breast cancer is early detection because that's where we're able to treat relatively quickly and also save lives.
How big of a difference can delaying a screening make if it's only a few weeks or a month or two?
That's a great question. They actually did look at some of these numbers during the pandemic because they did see that there was a delay in some of our screening exams and women going to the actual doctor. So that interpretation of what we see from the actual screening and that interruption of that timeline and follow-up did show that there is going to be more of an increase in invasive breast cancer. And invasive, again, is really where we want to stay away from because we really want to stay with early detection. That's key. And when you look at that 6-month delay from onset of symptoms to actually getting treatment, they know that increases the rate of recurrence and also death by 10%.
Wow. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about triple negative breast cancer. What is it and how is it treated?
Yeah, many of the breast cancers that, we have studied over the years usually are going to be cancers that have a hormone receptor positivity, meaning that a lot of the drugs that are devoted to treating these cancers are going to be on that hormone receptor and how they can actually treat that cancer. Now, triple negative breast cancer means it really doesn't have any of those hormone receptors, and therefore you're going to see that the treatments are a little bit lacking, and therefore the breast cancer can be a little bit more invasive and harder to treat. So for women who do get diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, again, with late onset and having these cancers not diagnosed early, you're going to see that that's going to be a higher mortality and more women having to resort to chemotherapy than some of the other drugs that we see that can be given with early detection.
What concerns you most about how our country is responding to the breast cancer epidemic as a whole?
We've done really well when we look at actual awareness. Awareness and education is probably where you're going to see most of the population geared towards what can we do early detection and being able to spread that message to their family and friends. So we have done a lot of good work when it comes to breast cancer. You see it in NFL, wearing pink throughout the month of October. But what we have seen over the years is that there's actually an increase in disparity of cases when we think of race and breast cancer. Now, typically breast cancer used to be seen more incidents. You used to see more incidents of breast cancer in white women, but now you're actually seeing that number closer between Black women and white women. However, Black women are 40% more likely to die from breast cancer. So still we have a lot of work to do when we think of the disparities with breast cancer.
And it's important for women to know also if they don't have health insurance right now or they're struggling to make ends meet, there are options for them, right?
Absolutely. This is one of the things that I think organizations and nonprofits are very good about spreading the word of how to get that screening and that mammogram to people who may not have insurance. Getting those, you see those throughout the community, whether it's with a bus going through a community or at festivals or even at church events, having that mammogram available to women, that really is how we're going to get to communities that otherwise may not go to the doctor and get that screening.
All right, Dr. Shepard, thank you so much. It's a very important issue and an important reminder, especially in this month of breast cancer awareness. Thank you.
Thanks so much for highlighting it.